Joining me right now in the Office of Ways and Means, he's got a big button on it that says 2.5. It's Chairman Paul Bettencourt. Welcome back.
Well, glad to be back on, Chad.
Well, you've got a big button that says 2.5. I guess that means you like that 2.5% property tax rollback rate.
You got it, Chad. And not only do I like it, but Quinnipiac just has a poll out, and 77% of Texans like the 2.5% plan. Only 18% are opposed. And look, Chad, here's why. This is an everywhere problem. It's, High Plains to the Gulf Coast, Red River to Rio Grande, you name it, because people are just getting taxed out of their homes and businesses. So I think this has been a really good, bold step, and Chairman Burrows and I have, filed, identical bills in both the House and the Senate. I've got mine out of committee, and he's having a big committee hearing today. So, you can imagine there's going to be rockets red glare around here on property taxes.
Now, in your hearing that lasted, 14 hours? Is that right?
I think we stopped at 11, maybe 13. We stopped at 11 o'clock.
It wasn't a record.
No, it wasn't a record. No, that's right. It's 15 clock hours total, but who's counting?
You mentioned the 77% who approve. There were a lot of people who were testifying that they didn't approve, and a lot of those are elected officials from counties and cities. What's your message to them when you're looking at a poll that says 77% of everyday Texans support a 2.5% rollback rate, and when so many county officials and elected officials, and I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but when you have so many of these elected officials who are telling a different story, what's your message to them?
My message, just get with the program. Look, the public is demanding property tax relief. And they want it for schools, they want it for cities, they want it for counties, they want it for special districts. Look, and the reason why is because the tax increase has been astounding. Average increases in urban areas have been in the 30% over 4 years. We've got a lot of homes on average in the state paying $5,000 a year. And just a few years ago, they were paying $3,600. Now, so my message to the local officials that are opposing it is you're going to find a lot of people against you on this issue. And it's real simple. Not a single everyday Texan opposed the bill. We had people that drove in from the Panhandle, the Valley, all over Texas. The only people that opposed it were elected officials or employees or the paid lobbyists, which really infuriates me, because what I can't stand is seeing paid lobbyists come up lobbying against a taxpayer relief effort.
I'm not going to call out anybody by name, but
do you want a list?
Yeah, let's get a list. What's your message to other lawmakers here in Austin who, when either they come to you or on the House side, they go to Chairman Burrows and they go, I'm getting calls. I'm getting calls from the county. I'm getting calls from the city. I'm getting calls from these areas. Who, I almost hate to put it this way, but who is the constituency? Is it the elected officials? Because this is almost pitting the elected officials in the local areas against the citizens who are on your side.
Well, look, we've got, counties like Collin and Montgomery that have come out for SB2. There are elected officials in Lubbock, that have come out for SB2. And they're listening to the reality. The reality is that taxpayer bills are up 2 or 3 times faster every year than Texans' paychecks. I look at Travis County, which is a Democrat-controlled county. It's their county commissioners have set the best record for reducing the tax rate as values go up of any county in the state. Okay, because they cut it 12.5 pennies. Look, because it's everybody pays problem. And the reason is simple. Look, the state bird of Texas is supposed to be the mockingbird, but the real story is it's now the construction crane. Everywhere you look, okay, there's construction activity, and that means that the value property goes up, and when the value property goes up, the tax bill goes up. Now, we're also talking this year, and what I really like about it, I've been talking for a year about weaning off of Robin Hood, reducing recapture. the state has to, belly up to the bar and put money into the system that as values go up, tax rates can be cut on schools, because that's generally a little bit over half of the tax bill. So if the state can do it, my message to the local elected officials is get on the train with the rest of the taxpayers, because those are the ones that are really electing you. Look, a Quinnipiac poll of 77 to 18 of Texas voters, that's off the charts. Okay. And it's because people are really being hurt. Businesses and homeowners are really being hurt.
Now, and we're visiting with Chairman Paul Bettencourt here on the Chad Hasty Show at the Capitol. Before we take our next break, the original bill, it did have some rural areas that were excluded. They were cut out from this. Then as it went through committee and y'all adjusted a few things, now those rural areas can opt in if they hold an election. When you see that 77% mark and say, okay, it seems like people, whether they're in rural, urban areas, they all want this. Do we even need to have a cutout?
Well, what's interesting is that, how these bills work is that, the Senate and House get together and they agree at a starting point. Well, I didn't have to wait for a poll to know what to do, because we had dozens of, I think 80 real Texans walk in and said, please cover me. Please cover me.
Right.
And so the Senate version of the bill back when it got stopped in the special session, had an opt-in provision in. So we added an opt-in back in because we're listening to Texans. See, that's the problem with all this. You've got to listen to Texans' ability to pay their bills. If they can't pay their bills, we've got to do something about it. Or eventually the voters will.
Visiting with Chairman Paul Bettencourt here on the Chad Hasty Show, live from the state capitol. We'll take our break. When we come back, we'll have one more segment with Chairman Paul Bettencourt. SB2 is the big topic of the day. We'll talk about that and a little bit more when we come back. Chad Hasty Show, KFYO. Broadcasting from the state capitol here in Austin. Welcomed by Chairman Dustin Burrows on Lubbock Day to the state capitol. We're visiting with Chairman Paul Bettencourt about SB2, and we were talking during the break, during the hearing. You got quite a few, I guess. You heard some testimony on some expenditures that just kind of blew your mind.
Well, look, nothing like working in the People's Republic of Austin to get your attention. But a former city councilwoman came up and said one of the things that she was upset about was one contract in the city of Austin to clean one public toilet, $740,000 a year.
Well, listen, sometimes they're dirty.
Yeah, you don't know what's being thrown in it, but
that's a bad toilet.
But look, we heard these type of stories. Wow. But one of our best testimony was from a businessman, Dan Alford, down in Houston. He's Arc Specialties. He makes robotic welding equipment used in the oil field, and he said that his average salary is $92,000. But guess what? How much each employee is costing them on property taxes? It's $5,000 per employee now. Okay. So, businesses have the load. So it's $5,000 for his business, for his employees, and his employees are paying on average $5,000 at home. Yeah. So it's not just where you live, it's where you work too. Because that's a $10,000 load, just using that example in both places for the average person. There
have been some reports that the votes right now are not there in the Senate for SB2. Do you think that's true? One. Two, how sure are you that some form of property tax relief is going to get through the Senate?
I tell you this, if it doesn't get through the session, in the regular session, I have told my landlord I'm here for the summer. Because, look, the bill has a lot of support, and we are waiting on our education counterparts to talk about their bills, because I've got placeholder language right now that talks about keeping schools to a hard cap of 2.5%, and then the state putting that money in. So, but this bill's going to pass one way or the other, because Texans are they're demanding it. And, we're very, very close to what I think is a really good solution. But we went first in the Senate, the House turned to have their hearings. I'm very, very optimistic we're going to get something done.
Before I let you go, the other side of this is going to be school financing. Sure. What do you think that's going to look like?
Well, I tell you, the property tax relief bill is 125 pages. The school finance bill is going to be 400 or 500 pages. It's really going to be a dense document. the important thing about school finance reform is that you have to recognize two things. One, you have to let ISDs cut the tax rate as values go up. Otherwise, there's not enough property tax relief. And then you need money for new programs. And the Senate's talked about new money for teacher pay. And there's a lot of good reforms that came out of the Commission on Public School Finance that I was a member of for a year. And I think Senator Perry's talked about that, on your program before. So look, we're taking real swings at vexing problems for the state. One, Robin Hood, school finance reform, and two, property tax relief. I think you have to do both, and we're here to do both. And look, with 77% of Texas voters behind the plan, I think that's going to start turning some heads here pretty shortly.
The Lubbock delegation, how they've been doing on this work?
Well, the good news is the Lubbock delegation, you've got two superstars for taxpayers. One is Chairman Dustin Burrows. Okay. He is relatively new to the process, but he's quite frankly a great legal mind and a real champion for taxpayers. And I can't say enough for Senator Perry, who and I came in the Senate together, because he's one of the real numbers guys in the Senate, and he and I are on the Finance Committee. So you don't want to be on the other end of us arguing against you. And look, I'm just telling you right now that, this is probably the last call for elected officials to get on board with this. Because if they don't like the 2.5% number, great. Come up with their idea, because Texans demand this. They demand, that we fix these problems, and that's what we're elected to do. And look, I've been for property tax relief all my adult life. Okay. Yeah. Because I think we have to control the growth of government. Otherwise it eats everyone out of house and home. We can't let government grow at 10% a year. And by the way, the loudest complainers in the hearing were people that had raised their taxes 40, 50, 60% in 4 years. In fact, one mayor of a North Texas town came and apologized to me yesterday after he thought about it, because he was very aggressive in the hearing. And he said, no, he was wrong, and he wanted to tell me that. So I hope that everyone gets the message, because this train's leaving the station. The question is, does it leave the station in regular session or special? Because we've got the votes at 2.5% in a special session to move the bill. Chairman Paul Bettencourt, as always, appreciate your time today. Thank you. And by the way, I like the bearded,
Thank you.
look. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I hear you got it. You grew it before Ted Cruz.
I did. He.
Well, I can't grow one.
I took the lead.
But you're by far, that's a better cut for you, the High Plains guys. You can grow better beards.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Chairman Paul Bettencourt here on the Chad Hasty Show, live from the state capitol, beautiful state capitol building here in Texas.